After the finale of Avengers Infinity War, fans have got a whole lot of questions about where some of our favorite heroes will end up over the course of the next several MCU films. But even prior to the release of that 10 years in the making epic, fans were speculating what will happen with our favorite group of intergalactic misfits, the Guardians of the Galaxy. So today we're diving into some of the most interesting and fascinating theories concerning the group and their third film, set for 2020, with our list of the top 10 Guardians of the Galaxy fan theories. And at number 10, Peter's music. Starting off this list, we've got a theory about Peter and his music, and why he's so attached to it. Now, the obvious reason is because it's a connection to his mother. She gave him the tapes before she died.
Your mama wants to speak with you. Come on, Pete.
But other people have riffed off that sentiment, and think his attachment is also due to his connection to Earth, theorizing that Peter hasn't been back to Earth in almost 23 years. Meaning that his mixtape is the only English that he's heard over the course of the time that he's been away. While the films are in English, that doesn't mean the primary language is spoken in English. Food for thought. And at number 9, Slither and Guardians. On a sillier note, another theory kicking around in the interwebs has connected Guardians of the Galaxy to one of director James Gunn's earlier films, Slither. Slither is a 2006 black comedy horror, and was Gunn's directorial debut, and it plays with some pretty goofy horror tropes.
Disgusting.
Don't let him in your mouth!
It will change the face of horror.
Marriage is a sacred bond, for better or worse.
Much worse.
In one scene, there's a slug that is on a planet that isn't Earth, and it attacks a rat-like creature. In Guardians of the Galaxy 1, the space slugs that are in Slither make an appearance in the scene at the Collectors. Fans have speculated that the rat creature in Slither is the Orlani, which is a race of rat-like creatures that appear in both Guardian films. You know, the ones that Groot ends up punching in the beginning of the second film? Which hypothetically makes those slugs the same species as the ones in Slither that ended up on Earth. In our number 8 spot, Mantis is Ego's daughter. When we meet Mantis, she tells the Guardians that Ego had found her on her home planet where she was in her larvae state. This has led people to wonder why Ego was on her home planet in the first place, and if he was there on his quest to hunt down his offspring. While he kills those who don't exhibit celestial powers, he may have seen Mantis's powers as useful in other ways, and chose to keep her alive.
If I touch someone, I can feel their feelings.
And at number 7, Avengers playing D&D. A fun theory from Tumblr account Blue and Orange, this one speculates that the Guardians of the Galaxy are actually the Avengers playing Dungeons & Dragons, and all of the characters are a result of that. And despite the characters now being well acquainted in the MCU, this theory still makes for a good laugh, and some of the arguments are actually pretty great. Tony Stark is supposed to be playing a Star-Lord. They're both sarcastic and womanizers. Black Widow is Gamora, a master assassin raised from childhood. Hawkeye is Yondu, cause arrows. And Thor is Drax, who is also ignorant of Earth's social norms. While obviously this theory doesn't pan out at all, we would like to think that maybe later on down the road the Avengers may bust out a game of D&D, and use their new pals as characters. Wishful thinking much? And at number 6, Rocket was created by Thanos. James Gunn has noted that we'll be getting to know a lot more about Rocket Raccoon's backstory in the upcoming film, saying, I quote, "It's going to be a little different from the comics. It's a little bit more horrible." Ugh. Now during Volume 2 we got a moment with Nebula in which she got into the details of what Thanos used to do to her whenever she failed to beat Gamora in combat. Fans may recall that Rocket had a similarly gruesome description of his own origins in Volume 1, which has led to the speculation that perhaps Thanos was behind Rocket's creation.
I didn't ask to be torn apart and put back together over and over and turned into some little monster.
Rocket, no one's calling you a monster.
All that being said, by the time that we see the Guardians' next solo film, Thanos may be long gone, depending on what goes down in the upcoming 4th Avengers movie. Up next, number 5, Adam Warlock. High Priestess Aisha, the leader of the Sovereign, initially hired the Guardians, but now she and her people are their enemies. During the post-credit scene in Guardians Volume 2, Aisha is seen discussing a new creation of hers that she plans on using against the Guardians, and says, "I think I shall call him Adam."
Adam.
It's then revealed she's looking at a cocoon structure similar to Adam Warlock's in the comics. James Gunn has yet to confirm that Warlock will appear in the film, saying, I quote, "Who knows how long it will take for him to bake in that cocoon." Fans are speculating that he'll initially be the villain in the 3rd film, although he may turn to the side of good fairly quickly. That being said, some are still hopeful that he'll somehow play into the Infinity War storyline, considering that Adam Warlock was a massive part of the Infinity Gauntlet miniseries that the 3rd Avengers film was primarily based off of. Regardless, it seems likely that he will play a part in the Guardians story in some way or form. And at number 4, Groot is part of the Yggdrasil tree. The Yggdrasil tree is mentioned in various occasions throughout the MCU. In Captain America: The First Avenger, Red Skull discusses it in his first scene of the film, while looking at a carving of it on a wall, calling it the Guardian of Wisdom and Fate. It's mentioned in the Thor films as the tree that connects the 9 realms. We know that Groot, when destroyed, can generate into another living Groot, which is what spawned the theory. It would also explain why Groot's criminal record at the Nova Corps reads Origin X, although the latter seems to be a bit of a long shot. Up next, number 3, Peter's powers in Nowhere. Some fans have taken it upon themselves to try to decipher the space coordinates that appear throughout the Guardians films, by swapping out the numbers in the coordinates to letters. Nowhere, which is where the Guardians are headed to in their next film, had coordinates that translated to Meredith Quill X, which some people assumed means that there is another part of Ego, who was her ex, located on Nowhere. Nowhere is already known to possess a severed celestial head. Could there be a connection? In our number 2 spot, Peter didn't lose his powers. In Guardians Volume 2, when Ego is destroyed, Peter is supposed to lose his powers, since his celestial abilities are directly tied to his father. One theory from a Reddit user named Corey Oreo claims that Peter didn't actually lose his powers in the battle against Ego, but that he still retained them, and that Ego was lying to him about losing them. This comes from the logic that if both of their powers draw from the same finite source, a second outlet doesn't double it. It just splits it in half of what each of them get. Meaning if Peter was pulling his powers from the power at the center of Ego's planet, Ego wouldn't be able to access his full extent of powers, because someone else is grabbing that energy. Interesting, but perhaps not entirely plausible. And last but not least, in our number 1 spot, all the Guardians die. Bleak, yeah? James Gunn has stated in multiple interviews that the team of Guardians in Volume 3 will be the last time that we see the current Guardians team. This could mean that the group could diversify. It could lose a member. Or, as some are suggesting, it could mean the Guardians will all die at the end of Volume 3. It seems a bit excessive, but if Adam Warlock is the villain they go up against, there's a fairly good chance that defeat is in their cards. Or maybe that's not the reason at all. All that being said, there's a lot to consider when we look at the events of Avengers Infinity War. While most are assuming that Thanos' snap that eliminated half of all living things will be reversed, many are speculating that Gamora's death won't be reversible, since Thanos had sacrificed her prior to, in order to obtain the Soul Stone. Currently only Rocket and Nebula are left remaining after Infinity War, which also suggests that if certain members can't be brought back to life, Rocket may be the one leading the Guardians for Volume 3. He was the leader of the group in the comics for a duration of time. But that doesn't really line up with what James Gunn had said about that being the last time that we see all of the Guardians together. Will they really put us through that emotional turmoil of having all the characters return in the 4th Avengers film only to kill them all off again? It seems a little unlikely. Maybe they just part ways, I don't know. Alright, there we have it, friends. If you guys want us to do more theories lists, especially ones that tie into the recent Infinity War film, let us know in those comments below. In the meantime, if you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to check out the playlist that's currently flashing on your screen right now for more nerdy videos. Thanks for watching, everybody. Catch you all in the next one.